everybody, my name is Elisa and we're back. I am so excited because what you've just seen was the Clio dress, which is a new sewing pattern of mine, and I have worked on her for an extensive amount of time, and I'm so happy, elated, excited that she's now out in the world and I can finally move on. I am so ready. I am so over her. If you have not seen that tutorial yet and you're curious, the link is in my description. She's a great transition dress. I would recommend it to anybody because I love having her in my wardrobe and there's no occasion that you couldn't wear her to. I am in the mood of creative sewing, and I think if you've been around here before, you know what that means. It is time for another de-stashing marathon. Yay! We are in a new season. The last de-stashing marathon that I did was in summer. So basically, if you don't know what a de-stashing marathon is, it's me going through my fabric stash, trying to sew up as many fabrics that I have as possible and create seasonally appropriate outfits with them. It's high time we are doing this for the fall-autumn season. I have recently purchased a lot of beautiful fabrics that I want to sew up, and I'm so excited to show them to you. I have already done a little bit of design work in advance, thinking about what I wanted to make with the fabrics, so let me fill you in. Firstly, we are going to work with this absolutely gorgeous dark denim. I am in the mood for denim right now, and I think it's because this summer I've worked a lot with cottons and linens and slippery fabrics, so I feel like something sturdy and structurally sound would be nice. I'm also inspired by a lot of the darker denim looks that I'm seeing right now, and I want to kind of incorporate that in my wardrobe. So I have bought not just 1 or 2 or 3 meters of dark denim. I have actually bought 8 2 different kinds, and the first one that I want to sew up is this one. Here's a little mood board for you to get you into my space of mind. Alright, so as you can see, lots of medium to very dark denim. In terms of the silhouettes, I'm more leaning towards the shorter dresses. I want to do something short. And interestingly, I've noticed about myself, in the summer months, I like to wear median maxi dresses. In the winter months, I prefer shorter dresses. Although that sounds counterintuitive, I think the logic behind it is that in summer, something flowy, loose, long is just very comfortable and nice to wear when it's really hot outside, versus mini dresses can actually be quite uncomfortable. And mini dresses are great to wear in the winter with boots and tights and a coat, and you will be warm and cozy but look great. So I think that's kind of my logic behind that. Anyway, we're gonna make a short denim dress. This is the sketch. All right, I kind of hear you say, a drop waist. She already made a drop waist dress this year. A boat neck. How revolutionary. Not only did she already make a boat neck dress, she made a boat neck dress with a drop waist. Back in May, my Olympia pattern. I hear you, I hear you. I promise though that this will look different. Yes, it has a boat neck, yes, it has a drop waist, but the skirt is quite different. It is a gathered half circle skirt, so that means that the circumference around the waist is just a lot wider than you would actually need it to be able to gather it down to the waist of the top, and it has princess seams. Plus, it has a snap opening in the front, which the Olympia dress did not have. So all in all, I would say it's adjacent to the Olympia dress, but it's not the same. That's the first design. What do you think about it? All right, second design. Super excited about this fabric, and this is a crinkle satin, and it has the most whimsical, magical house moving castle core print. I actually don't know why. It kind of looks like little tarot cards. There's suns on it and little squares or like diamonds, and the color is just so beautiful because it has this buttermilk base with the green on top, which altogether makes it look a little sagey. It's a bit of a risk for me because I don't wear a lot of green. I've done one green dress earlier this year, so I kind of want to venture more into green, and I do think it suits my color season. I have 4 meters of this and I intend to use all of it. However, it's still going to be a mini dress, and inspo for this are kind of these dresses. What I like about these is that for some reason, something about them tells me menswear, although they're super feminine and beautiful dresses, but because of the prints that are on them, this is something that you could totally use for like a beautiful men's jacket lining or a suit tie. And I want to put that in juxtaposition with the silhouette of the dress. And I kind of want to make a whimsical Art Deco meets 1980s party dress, which sounds totally weird when I say it out loud, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. So let me show you the sketch. All right, sketch all done. What do you think? We have a shirt bodice. I know that I do share fabrics a lot, but it's one of my favorite ways to treat fabric. And this time we're actually going to challenge ourselves, and I was challenged for one of you guys because some of you pointed out that I always only share basically rectangles and squares to make them sort of like a tube top and then just plop sleeves on it. And that's true, because that's just a super beginner friendly way to do shirring. This time around we're going to do something a little advanced, because we're going to shear the whole perimeter from like the neck hole and the shoulders down to the waist. It's going to be a tank top-esque silhouette for the bodice, which is all going to be shirred front to back, which requires a little bit of a different approach to the whole assembly process, but we'll get to that when we get there. And then the pièce de résistance about this design, I think, are going to be the bishop sleeves.
I'm so excited about these bishop sleeves,
because they're going to look so nice with that fabric, and they're going to look a little Mr. Darcy at sunset.
Or is it dawn? It's dawn. Mr. Darcy at dawn kind of vibe.
And then we're going to do a very simple, also gathered half circle skirt. And I'm kind of feeling that maybe a little scarf situation would be nice. Something like a kitty cat bow, or like a pussy bow, what those are called. But we will see. That's kind of like what I want to do with this fabric. It's the perfect party dress, so I have to find some parties to go to for this season. All right, let's move on. We're getting into something a little bit more everyday core, and it's this plaid. I kind of like this because it has this off-white base with the navy and the burgundy stripes, and I kind of think that that looks cute and laid back, but also works with my color season, which, you know, I'm very aware of recently. I also have plenty of this fabric, and I want to play around with gathers. I'm kind of thinking this for this dress. So we're gonna have a bit of a ruffle here in one of the shoulders, and we're gonna have a bit of a ruffle in the opposite waist area to kind of make it look draped all in all. And I want to counterbalance that kind of elegant approach with very simple t-shirt sleeves and a nice midi length straight skirt. And I want this to be almost like a simple t-shirt dress, but with the ruffles it makes it a little bit more elevated. And I think this would be a fantastic dress for any kind of, like, you know, going to the office, meeting friends for brunch. Put on like nice boots and a coat and you're gonna look fantastic. The plaid is very laid back, but the silhouette of the dress is a little bit more elevated. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for that design, fabric design. There's one more. Last but not least, we have this etched satin, I think it's called. So basically you have a weave design in there. So it's a little bit more shiny in one area than the other, and that kind of gives it this moire effect, sort of. I don't know if that's the right word to use here. It's quite elegant, and it could skew a little matronly. So we have to be careful about that. And in terms of the design for this, I'm actually not fully sure yet. I have some ideas, which are sort of like the Morticia Addams Avenue, which if that's the last dress in this marathon, it could get closer to Halloween, so it would make sense. I want a very, very simple black longish dress that has one detail about it that makes it interesting, but it kind of stands out because of its simplicity. And because the fabric is quite slinky, it's actually probably quite sexy. So we want to keep it demure.
We want to keep it mindful, we want to keep it demure.
It's supposed to be quite covering, but maybe there's a keyhole in the décolleté. This is the option. So we could either do a very simple sleeve, or we could do another bishop sleeve. The bishop sleeve, I think, would make it very elegant and kind of like a little limiting maybe as to where I would wear this. If it had the simple sleeve, I would totally wear this to the theater, which I do go to the theater a lot. So maybe I need a theater dress. Okay, anyway, so these are all the designs. This is what you're in for. And as I've mentioned before,
this is a marathon, which means
we can't do all of this in one video. It's just too much. So buckle up, get cozy, get your cup of tea. You're in for an exciting ride. All right, the first design is the denim dress, so let's get to it. So the first test is completed, and I have to say, for something that I just whipped up yesterday, quite freestyle, this is really good. Like, this is a really, really good fit. I'm quite pleased with this. There are 3 things that I want to change. So for one, there could be slightly more wiggle room in the bust area. So right now it's a good fit, but if I had like half a centimeter, 1 centimeter more wiggle room, that wouldn't hurt me. At the same time, I could take it in by about half a centimeter around here. And the same thing applies to the princess seam here in the armhole area. So this needs to be taken in slightly. And then the last thing is that I want to make this a little bit longer. It is drop waist right now, but not enough. So actually I feel like I could add a good 4 centimeters down here to really give it the effect that I want. That's it. That's what I need to change. So I'm gonna do that on Illustrator now, and then I'll reprint the pattern, and then I think I can move on to my actual fabric, which is this gorgeous denim here. Alright, I have got all of my pattern pieces sorted plus the facing, and I will start off by sewing together my front pieces, putting the back to the side for now. I'll remove the pig pattern as per usual, and then we will make sure that everything matches up. There's a notch in the bust area that we can use to align everything, so I'm just going to use that to start off. And as is the case with most curves, it is helpful to use as many pins as possible in any curved seam to try and keep it as flat as possible. So I'm going to pin down the area of the seam that goes towards the waist first. This is straighter and easier. And what I will do is I'll sew everything together with a stitch length of 5 for starters, so I can press the top and try it on and see how it fits. And if I have to make any adjustments, it's easier to open up the seam if it's just basted. So that's my plan. So first I am pinning and sewing the princess seams, and then I can join front and back together by placing front and back right sides touching, pinning the shoulders as well as the side seams and sewing them as well. Alright, I'm pleased, I'm happy, the fit is good. I noticed that the back could do with a tiny little bit of a dart. So I'm gonna try suss out where to place this on the back side here now. If I release this as a pattern, and if this is the tutorial, you will find that there is a dart in the back, which you have to place. You can do that before you join front and back together. Alright, so now that the bodice is sewn together, I can focus on the skirt. And we have a, I don't know what you will call this, it's a circle skirt. It has a gathered waist. There is quite a lot more volume in the back than there is in the front. I think that's everything you need to know. So basically what I want to do is I want to sew front and back together, and I want to insert a inseam pocket, a side seam pocket. So what I'm going to do for starters is I will serge all of my side seams. I will then also serge all of the side seam sections of my pocket. Now I'm going to focus on one side first. So I'm going to place the back in front of me, and then I will start by grabbing one pocket layer, placing it right sides touching just about 1.5 centimeters below my waist, and I'm going to pin that here. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side, which is my front. I'm grabbing a pocket layer, placing it in the same spot like this, and now I'll attach this right here. Now I will flip both pockets out like this. I'll press this and then top stitch the seam. I'm now going to sew down the side, around the pocket, and down the rest of the side seam on both sides. I will then add a basting stitch all around the perimeter of my waist seams, 2 to be exact, so I can ruffle them up to fit the waist of the bodice. I'm now going to serge around the pocket to finish that off. I'm setting my stitch length to 5, which is the biggest stitch I have. And now I'm gonna add these 2 rows of basting stitches so I can gather up the skirt. All right, now the interesting part commences, which is we will find whether or not this actually can be gathered, because this is quite substantial heavyweight denim, so it's possible that I won't be able to gather it, and if that is the case then we will pleat it, but in any case I will have a gathered skirt one way or the other. Alright, the gathering with the basting stitches was a little bit too tough, so I decided to pin some pleats into the skirt instead, so I'm just using loads of needles and I ruffled the skirt manually. Alright, that's done. And now I can take this to my machine and carefully sew the skirt to the bodice. Excuse me, how cute is this? And the best part is we're almost done. So it's time to prep the facing. I'll do that by firstly joining the side seams, and before you ask, yes, these are 2 different types of denim. I ran out of the denim that makes the main dress. This is a different type of denim, but nobody will see it. It's the facing. So again, placing the right sides touching and just sewing these side seams. And now I will serge the entirety of the inner perimeter of my facing. So that means everything that's not going to be used to overturn the neckline or the center front. So all of these inner raw edges, I'm going to serge all of that. Now that the facing is prepared, we can fetch the dress and, surprisingly, open up the shoulder seams. Why is that? We close the shoulder seams so we can try the dress as we go along, fit it, have it, work for us, etc., etc. So now that we want to attach the facing, the easiest way to do that in a clean way is to open the shoulder seams back up again, because that will be our opening that we use to finalize everything once everything's attached. Now that that's back open, I can place my dress like so, fetch the facing, and place it so that I can start to pin along center back, the armholes, the front neckline, the center front, etc., etc. So basically you just pin along all of those open areas. So neckline, and now I'm gonna follow up with the armhole, the front neckline, and then all the way down from the neckline down the center front to the hem, which technically speaking is our button tape. There is no visible button tape, but the facing is wide enough so that there are 2 layers when I eventually will install my metal buttons later. All right, the facing is pinned. I'm now going to sew all the way around the perimeter, leaving the shoulder areas open. Whew, that was a chore. Okay, so before I can now overturn all of this, there's a few things I want to do. First, I want to snip this corner here in the center front neckline, and I want to give my armholes a bunch of little incisions, making sure I'm not cutting through the seam. That releases the tension around the curves and allows me to really nicely overturn this and then press it. All right, and now truth will be revealed. I'm now reaching into the shoulder here, and from here I'm starting to overturn everything. Chopstick to the rescue. And once everything is turned around, you can take this to your iron and really fixate it in place by nicely pressing it off. What I do now is I reach into the back side and I try to turn the facing back around, but not completely, just this upper section here. And then I grab the front part of the dress and I stuff it into the back part, right? Like that. And I'm holding it with my left hand, which you cannot see right now, which allows me to pull everything out. Now I can just fiddle around with the placement a little bit, trying to make sure everything's nice and flush. So what should happen is that the seam allowance of both the inner front piece and the outer back piece is flush here. And I'm just popping a pin down so nothing's moving too much. And now all I do is I sew this across. And this being the outer side of the armhole and this being the neckline, I'm gonna try to give this a little bit of a tilt because historically I know that that helps with any potential gaping of the boat neck. So I'm gonna start here about 1 centimeter below the edge, which is right where my seam allowance would be anyway, or would end anyway. And then I'm gonna slant it over a little bit. So I'm gonna have like 1 centimeter here and let's say 1.3, 1.2 over here. So I'm gonna slant it a little bit bit like this, and that's just gonna mitigate the boat neck standing away too much from my actual body. It's gonna keep it nice and close. That's what I do for myself anyway. For you, always, you know, you want to make a mock-up first, as I always say, but you could play around with this a few times just using a basting stitch. That will work as well. Pretty good. Not bad. There's a little bit of a disconnect here, so I'm going to try to fix that, but that's the principle, so let me close both of my shoulders. This dress is now completed in terms of its construction and how I sewed it together. The last thing that I need to do is to put buttons on it, and I have these studs here that I know are going to look amazing once they're installed. I just don't particularly like installing them. What we're gonna do is, first I need to decide which color to go for. And usually I go for these like more rusty, bronzy ones. I also have these gold ones which look horrendous. They're much too bright. I also have these darker ones which wouldn't look so bad. Black and silver. I think I can rule out these two. This is too dark. I'm not a silver girly, so I can get rid of those. But between these two, no, still like the bronze ones best. Can't help it. And what I need to do now is to suss out the placement. This set comes with a bunch of instructions. I got this from Amazon, by the way, but you could also probably find this in your local arts and crafts store, in a fabric store that supplies haberdashery and such things. This kind of sort of explains step by step how to use this. I'm always confused first when I start doing this, so I just need to roll as I go. But what I know from experience is that punching a hole in fabric with the tools that are supplied with this doesn't really work. So what I do instead is I pre-cut tiny little holes. It's risky. It's definitely risky.
That had to go in a bin.
I just cut the neckline and it's feeling volatile. Today is a day we're taking risks. Well, I'm a little nervous. Oh, gosh, guys, if this ever makes it on the internet, that will mean I've been successful.